And then I'm going to go over and open this folder. So this all depends on where your Unreal Engine install is. Mine happens to be in my D drive under Program Files, Epic Games, and UE420. So this is going to be your engine version, right? You can have multiple engine versions installed. So whichever engine version that you're using, you're going to go into Engine and then Config under there. So under this directory, you'll find a file here called LightMass or base lightmass.ini. You can see I've already made a copy of it that has all the original settings. So I'm going to load this up. And the part that we're interested in is going to be down here. So you have static lighting production quality, you have high quality, medium, and these are the three main build qualities that you're going to be using in Unreal Engine, right? So all these settings correspond to the settings drop down for your lighting quality build settings. So usually what I do is I'll go and replace medium quality with architectural visualization quality because I will be using production, but I'll probably never use medium quality. But for this example, I'm just going to update it in the production quality settings. So as you can see, these are all the default settings here under production quality. Now, if I go back and I open up the modified version that I created, these settings down here are going to be the updated settings for higher quality light builds, right? So this is, like I said, usually used for architectural visualization, any kind of high-end visualization that you want to do with bake lighting. This is just going to be much higher quality light builds, more bounces, all that stuff. It'll obviously take longer to build, but the quality difference is pretty substantial. So these are the settings that you want to copy into your base lightmass.ini, and it's always good to keep a backup of the original just in case. Okay, so I'm going to close these. Now, one more variable that I want to change is going to be in the console variables.ini, which is also in the same directory as the base lightmass.ini. So if I open this, and I scroll down to the bottom, I want to add one more line at the very end. This is going to be r.lightPropagationVolume equals 1, with a space in between the equals, the 1, and the volume. So you want to type it exactly like this, capitalization and everything. So I'm going to save this. And that's actually going to enable the real-time GI light propagation volumes, which is the next thing that I'm going to cover. So I'm going to load back up the project. And once again, whenever you make any of these changes, you have to restart the editor for these to take effect. Now you can enter console variables in Unreal Engine in the editor directly, but certain variables are locked, so you have to do it while the editor is closed or restart the editor afterwards for it to actually take effect. All right, so now I've relaunched the editor, and the setting is now enabled in my console variables.ini. So I'm going to go to my directional light. Once again, light propagation volumes are only available on the dominant directional light. They won't work on any other light actor type. So my dominant directional is already set to movable. And I'm going to scroll down in the light properties and look for a checkbox that says dynamic indirect lighting. As you can see, when you hover over, it gives you a little tooltip that says that it'll use the light propagation volume, so I'm going to check that. Now you can see immediately it's already starting to bounce light up into the top part here. So if I turn it off, turn it back on, it's bouncing light dynamically. So as I go and rotate this light actor, you can see that the bounce is moving around realistically based on where this light actor is facing. Right? And then if I go down here and I tilt it, you can also see it bouncing off of other objects. Now, if I want that effect to be more intense, I can just scrub my indirect lighting intensity, right? So I can set this up to like 20, for example. And as you can see, it's going to start bouncing light more intensely than it was before. And then I can obviously go in and change the color of the light as well if I want to. And that'll also affect the bounce colors. You can see reflecting here. And also the overall intensity of the light is going to affect bounce intensity as well. And then you can also modify the overall settings of the light propagation volume using a post-processing volume. which I'll go over a little bit later when we start getting into post-processing. So the next light actor type that I want to go through is going to be the Skylight actor, which you can see here. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to go back into my simplified scene, so I can do a quick lighting build. I'm going to delete the light actor that's already in here, and I'm going to build my lighting just to get rid of any baked lighting that's in there. I'm going to go over to my Lights tab here, and I'm going to grab the Skylight, and I'm going to bring it into the scene. Now you notice it doesn't have any immediate effect on the scene. Basically what a Skylight actor does is it'll either capture your entire scene and then use that as an image-based light. It'll basically create a cube map capture of your entire scene and then use that the color information from that cube map to create the lighting in your scene. Or you can specify a cube map. So in order to do that, you go under the light settings. Source type SLS captured scene is going to capture your environment, turn that into a cube map, and then project it back in as lighting. If I change that source type to specified cube map, I can then go in and select a SIBL, which stands for a Smart Image-Based Lighting, or an HDRI, and then use that to light my scene. So I'm going to select the first one that pops up. As you can see, it's already got some light injected into the scene, but it's not actually baked yet. I'm going to set it to static. And then you can go in and modify things like the cube map source angles. You can actually rotate the cube map around, and this is what the cube map looks like. So if I wanted this this bright spot, being the sun, to be in a specific direction, I can rotate it around and get it there, and then have my light source, the main light source, coming from that direction. You can also modify the cube map resolution if you want to. Lower values are going to bake more quickly. Sky distance threshold, your overall intensity, light color. So you can actually do a tint over this cube map if you like. Whether or not it casts shadows and affects worlds, and your indirect lighting intensity. So I'm going to leave all the settings at default, and I just changed this mobility to static, and then gave it this Epic Courtyard HDRI. So I'm going to go and build. Right, so this is lighting built in the scene using this HDRI. So if I go into detail lighting, you can see just the color information from it. It's mostly going to be bluish because you have a lot of sky in this, and then below the horizon is where it becomes darker, but it's going to project from the bottom, so you won't really see it up here. So then if I go back in and go into lit mode, and then I'm going to change this to a completely different HDRI. So let's use, actually let's go to this one. So I'm going to use this one for the light build this time. Now I'm going to go in and build again. Now you can see how the lighting has drastically changed. Now obviously if this were an outdoor environment and had a lot of trees or buildings and things like that, it's going to make a little bit more of a difference, but this kind of gives you an idea of how this works. And if you look at this icon, it kind of demonstrates how it's projecting light. So it's basically a hemisphere projecting downward. So you're getting light from all angles, and it's going to be more intense based on the brighter areas of this cube map. And once again, you can rotate it around and do all that stuff to get it exactly how you want it to be. All right, so let's go through a few more of the dynamic lighting features. So to do this, I'm going to get rid of the skylight. I'm going to bring back in the directional light. And I'm going to set it to movable. I'm going to rotate a little bit so I start getting shadows on this object over here. And I'm going to build lighting one more time just to get rid of all the baked light from the light that was previously in here. Right. So now all the lighting in my scene is completely dynamic, so I can bring down the intensity of this a little bit. So let's drop it down to 5. The first thing I want to go over is going to be contact shadows. So as I mentioned before, there's a screen space effect that basically gives you close contact shadows between objects. So if they're very small objects like this rope hitting the floor, for example, you're not going to get the greatest shadow detail between those two objects. So with my directional light selected, and once again, these are available in all of these light actor types except for Skylight. So if you scroll down and you go into your light settings, and you have contact shadow length, as you scrub this, you'll start to see the contact shadows form. So usually like a value of 0.1 is pretty good. And you'll also notice that they are screen space, so as I near the edge of the screen, they're going to start to fade out, and they're also based on distance, so they start to fade out the farther away you get from the object casting them. But as you can see, it gives much more detail to your object when it's coming in contact with the surface. So this is with them on, this is with them off. You can go in and modify the distance values per light based on what you need in your scene. But as you can see, they add quite a bit of detail to your scene. Also, right here, where these ropes hit the steps of the ladder, they're also making that shadow look much better. And once again, if you had a scene where you had like, ivies or something like that along the side of a wall, or maybe little pebbles on the ground or something like that, and you wanted those to cast realistic shadows, you could enable this feature and it would do that.